"Do you want to stay here tonight?" she asked, her voice barely audible above the howling blizzard outside the office windows. I laughed nervously, trying to mask my desperation with humor. "Is there room for me?" I joked, immediately regretting how it sounded. My boss's face remained serious as she looked at me, not as an employee, but as a human being in crisis. "Daniel," she said quietly, "I know about the eviction notice. And I know you've been sleeping in your car with your daughter." That moment changed everything. But before I tell you how this story ends, I want to thank you for joining me today. If this journey resonates with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your support helps stories like mine reach others who might be facing their own impossible choices. 6 months earlier, I had it all figured out. A decent apartment, a stable job as a marketing coordinator at Westlake Publishing, and most importantly, a happy 6-year-old daughter named Lily who had somehow adjusted to life without her mother. When my wife Sarah died unexpectedly from an aneurysm 2 years prior, I thought my world had ended. But for Lily's sake, I kept going. Then came the medical bills, the ones insurance wouldn't cover. Then the inflation that made groceries and gas nearly double in price. Then the rent increase. And finally, the breaking point, Lily's asthma attack that landed us in the emergency room for 3 days. I tried everything, payment plans, second jobs, cutting every possible expense. But eventually, math is just math. The eviction notice came on a Tuesday. We had until Friday to vacate. That Thursday, a blizzard hit our city, the worst in 30 years. Schools closed. Businesses shut down. But Westlake Publishing remained open because we had a major deadline, and Rebecca Morgan, our department director, needed all hands on deck. Rebecca was respected but not particularly well-liked. Brilliant, driven, and demanding, she had a reputation for being all business. At 42, she'd climbed to her position through sheer determination, and rumor had it she'd sacrificed everything else along the way: no family, no real personal life, just work. I'd arranged for Lily to stay with my elderly neighbor Mrs. Patel during my shift, planning to pick her up afterward, and then, well, I hadn't figured that part out yet. Maybe a cheap motel until the storm passed. Maybe my car, parked in a safe garage somewhere with the heat running. But as the day progressed, the storm intensified. Roads closed. The governor declared a state of emergency. And still, we worked, the skeleton crew of employees who had made it in that morning. At 7 p.m., Rebecca called the remaining staff into the conference room. "The building management has informed me that they're shutting down in 1 hour," she announced. "The roads are impassable, and they can't guarantee power will remain stable. They've offered to let essential personnel shelter in place until conditions improve." She looked around the room. "That means all of you need to decide: go home now while you might still make it, or stay here overnight. The company will provide cots and emergency supplies." My colleagues immediately began calling family members, making arrangements. I stepped away, pretending to make a call while actually panicking. Go where? To my empty apartment where the locks had probably already been changed? To my car with Lily during a blizzard? I must have looked as lost as I felt, because when I turned around, Rebecca was watching me with an expression I'd never seen on her face before. "Daniel," she said, "a word in my office?" I followed her, already formulating excuses for why I seemed distracted. But once the door closed, she surprised me. "Your performance has been slipping for months," she said without preamble. "Missed deadlines, careless errors, falling asleep during meetings." My heart sank. I was about to lose my job on top of everything else. "Normally, I would have addressed this weeks ago," she continued, "but I've been watching you. You arrive early, leave late. You never take lunch breaks. Your clothes have become increasingly worn. You bring your daughter to the office on weekends when you think no one will notice." I stared at her, mortified that my struggles had been so transparent. I'm not going to fire you, Daniel, she said, her voice softening slightly. But I need to know what's happening so I can determine if it's something we can work through. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the storm raging outside that matched the one inside me. Whatever the reason, I broke. I told her everything, Sarah's death, the medical bills, the eviction, my plans to sleep in my car with Lily until I could figure something out. Rebecca listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for so long I thought she might be contemplating how to let me go gently. Instead, she asked the question that would change our lives, do you want to stay here tonight? And I, trying desperately to maintain some dignity, made that awkward joke, is there room for me? Her response was immediate and firm. There's room for both you and Lily. Call your neighbor. I'll send a company car to bring your daughter here safely. Why would you do this? I asked, suspicious of sudden kindness after years of professional distance. Rebecca's expression shifted, revealing something vulnerable beneath her polished exterior. Because 20 years ago, I was Lily, she said quietly. And no one helped my father when he needed it. That night, as the blizzard raged, Rebecca transformed the executive floor into a temporary shelter. She arranged for security to bring cots, blankets, and emergency supplies from the building's disaster preparedness storage. She ordered food delivery before the roads became completely impassable. And most surprisingly, she connected with Lily immediately. My daughter arrived wide-eyed and frightened by the storm but quickly became enchanted by Rebecca, who produced coloring books and crayons from a desk drawer. I keep them for my nieces and nephews when they visit, she explained, though something in her expression made me wonder if that was entirely true. As the night progressed, the three of us huddled in the executive lounge, listening to the wind howl outside while Rebecca told Lily elaborate stories about a brave princess who protected her kingdom from ice storms. When Lily finally fell asleep on her cot, Rebecca and I sat in silence for a while, watching the snow swirl past the windows. You said you were Lily once, I finally ventured. What did you mean? Rebecca stared into her coffee cup. My mother left when I was 5. My father raised me alone. He was a good man, worked 2 jobs, never complained. But when I was 7, he lost our apartment. We lived in his delivery van for 3 months. She looked up at me. He worked for a publishing company, actually. Delivered books to stores. His boss never knew we were homeless. My father was too proud to ask for help. What happened? I asked. Winter came. It got too cold in the van. Her voice became clinical, detached. He sent me to school one day and parked outside his boss's house. Finally worked up the courage to ask for help. But he'd developed pneumonia by then. He collapsed on the doorstep before he could ring the bell. By the time they found him. She trailed off. I'm so sorry, I said, understanding now why my situation had prompted such an uncharacteristic response from her. I went into foster care. Eventually got a scholarship, worked my way up. But I've always wondered, if his boss had known, if anyone had noticed the signs like I noticed with you, would my father still be alive? The vulnerability in her question struck me deeply. This woman who terrified junior employees and commanded boardrooms was sharing her deepest wound. Is that why you're always at work? I asked. Why you push so hard? She smiled sadly. I built my life around never being vulnerable again. Never needing help. Being the one in control. She gestured around the empty office. And look what it got me. A corner office I sleep in during blizzards and no one to go home to. You have a beautiful home, I said, remembering the few times she'd mentioned her condo during company events. A beautiful empty space, she corrected. There's a difference. We talked through the night, about Sarah, about Lily, about Rebecca's father. About how success and failure look different to everyone. As dawn approached and the storm began to subside, Rebecca made me an offer. The company owns a small apartment building for visiting executives and new transfers, she said. There's a 2-bedroom unit vacant right now. It's yours if you want it, at a reduced rate that will work with your salary. Consider it part of an employee retention program. I started to protest, but she cut me off. This isn't charity, Daniel. It's an investment. You're a valuable employee going through a rough patch. The company can afford to help you stabilize so you can return to your previous performance levels. Her tone had returned to its professional cadence, but her eyes told a different story. And what about you? I asked. What do you get out of this? She looked over at Lily, still sleeping peacefully. Maybe a chance to help someone the way no one helped my father. Maybe a reminder that there's more to life than quarterly reports. The apartment was small but clean, with basic furniture and a view of the city park. Lily fell in love with it immediately, especially the second bedroom that Rebecca had somehow arranged to have painted her favorite color, purple, before we moved in. How did you know? I asked Rebecca when she came to check on us a week after we'd settled in. I pay attention, she said simply. It's the same color as her backpack and lunchbox. That first month was strange, adjusting to a new home, a new financial reality, and a new relationship with my boss. At work, Rebecca remained professional, demanding the same excellence from me she expected from everyone. But there were small changes. An employee assistance program suddenly became available to all staff, offering financial counseling and emergency loans. The company cafeteria began offering free breakfast and subsidized take-home meals. A childcare center opened in an unused corner of the building. These were all initiatives in the pipeline, Rebecca explained when I questioned the timing. Recent events simply accelerated the implementation. Gradually, I began to rebuild my life. With stable housing and the new company benefits, I could finally get ahead of my bills. My work performance improved. Lily thrived in her new school. And Rebecca became a regular presence in our lives, dropping by with books for Lily, inviting us to Sunday brunches, teaching my daughter chess on rainy weekends. 6 months after the blizzard, Rebecca invited us to dinner at her condo, the first time she'd ever had colleagues to her home, according to office gossip. The space was exactly as I'd imagined, immaculately designed, with stunning views and expensive art. But it felt unlived in, more like a hotel suite than a home. After Lily fell asleep on Rebecca's pristine white couch, Rebecca poured us both a glass of wine and led me to her balcony. I've been offered a promotion, she said without preamble. Chief Operating Officer at the parent company. In New York. My heart sank. Congratulations, I said, trying to sound sincere. When do you leave? That depends, she said, looking out at the city lights. I haven't accepted yet. Why not? It's an amazing opportunity. She turned to face me. Because for the first time in 20 years, I have something here that matters more than a job title. The intensity in her eyes made me look away. Rebecca. Let me finish, she said. I'm not good at this, at people, at emotions. I've spent my entire adult life avoiding them. But these past 6 months, being part of your lives, even peripherally, it's changed me. You've changed our lives too, I said carefully. Lily adores you. And you? She asked quietly. I hesitated, unsure how to navigate this shift from professional gratitude to something more personal. I don't know what I would have done without your help. But I don't want you to feel obligated. This isn't obligation, Daniel, she interrupted. This is me, at 42, realizing I built the wrong kind of life. A successful one, yes, but an empty one. She took a deep breath. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that before I make my decision about New York. I looked at this woman who had saved us, who had gradually revealed herself to be so much more than the cold executive everyone thought they knew. What if I am asking for something? I said finally. What if Lily and I would miss you terribly if you left? The smile that spread across her face transformed her completely. Then maybe I have a reason to stay. 3 months after that night on the balcony, Rebecca and I were having dinner at a small restaurant near the park. Lily was having a sleepover with a new school friend, and we were enjoying a rare evening alone. The conversation flowed easily between work projects and personal stories, the line between boss and friend long since blurred. As we walked back toward my apartment, Rebecca suddenly stopped in front of a small jewelry store. In the window display was a simple silver bracelet with a snowflake charm. "That reminds me of the blizzard," she said softly. "The night everything changed." I looked at her profile in the glow of the streetlights. "Do you ever regret it? Getting involved in our mess?" She turned to face me, her expression serious. "That night saved me as much as it saved you, Daniel. I was drowning in success but starving for meaning." She glanced back at the bracelet. "I've been thinking about my father a lot lately. About what he would think of the woman I've become." "He'd be incredibly proud," I said without hesitation. "Would he?" she asked, vulnerability creeping into her voice. "I've achieved everything he wanted for me, financial security, respect, influence. But until recently, I missed the most important lesson he taught me. Which was that a life without love is no life at all." She took a deep breath. "He worked those 2 jobs, lived in that van, not just to survive, but because he loved me. Everything he did was an act of love." I took her hand, feeling its warmth against the cool evening air. "And everything you've done for us, that was love too." Her eyes glistened in the streetlight. "Yes," she whispered. Though I didn't recognize it at first. We stood there, hands clasped, the moment stretching between us with unspoken possibilities. "I've never been good at personal relationships," she admitted. "Work was always simpler, more predictable." "And now?" I asked. "Now I'm terrified," she said with a small laugh. "But for the first time, I'm more afraid of missing out on what matters than I am of failing at it." I reached up to brush a strand of hair from her face. "I'm scared too. After Sarah died, I never thought I'd feel this way again. Never thought I'd want to." "And now?" she echoed my question. "Now I'm standing here with you, and I'm thinking about how you've become the person Lily and I look forward to seeing most in the world. How you've made space for us in your life when you didn't have to. How you see us, really see us." Rebecca's smile was tentative but real. "I've spent my career observing people, finding their strengths and weaknesses. But with you and Lily, I don't just observe. I care. Deeply." I leaned forward and kissed her, gently, briefly, our first kiss despite months of growing closer. When I pulled back, she looked surprised but pleased. "That wasn't in any of my 5-year plans," she said with a soft laugh. "Mine either," I admitted. "But I'm thinking maybe the best things in life aren't planned." She glanced back at the snowflake bracelet in the window. "Like blizzards?" "Like blizzards," I agreed. "And the shelter we find during them." The next day, Rebecca showed up at our apartment with 3 tickets to the Children's Museum, Lily's favorite place, and that silver snowflake bracelet on her wrist. As we walked through the exhibits, Lily holding both our hands and swinging between us, I caught Rebecca watching us with an expression of wonder, as if she couldn't quite believe this was her life now. "What?" I asked when Lily ran ahead to the next display. "I just realized something," she said. "That night, when you joked about whether there was room for you? The answer was always yes. I just didn't know it yet." 1 year after the blizzard, on a crisp winter evening, I found myself back in Rebecca's office. This time, I wasn't there as an employee in crisis but as a man with a purpose. The company holiday party was in full swing downstairs, but I had slipped away, telling Rebecca I needed to grab something from my desk. Instead, I was standing in her office, heart pounding, waiting for her to finish a conversation with the CEO. Through the glass walls, I could see her, confident, poised, but with a warmth that hadn't been there before. The entire office had noticed the change in her over the past year. The Ice Queen nickname had long since disappeared, replaced by genuine respect and even affection from the